What's the future of the conflict in Syria? Tough question, isn't it?
If I had the answer to that, I would win the Nobel Prize.
Okay.
Especially if I knew how to solve that. Unfortunately, I'm not up as a candidate for the Nobel Prize right now, but I can tell you a couple things. What we are absolutely watching right now in Syria is a civil war inside a civil war that has been complicated by the injection of Russian forces into the battle space.
A lot of sides of the conflict.
Correct. Even without Russia's involvement, this was an extremely complex battle space with different sides and factions pursuing different objectives, and the true cost was the human cost. The true cost was were civilians and non-combatants who were lost their homes or had to flee. By injecting itself into this conflict, Russia has confused an already very confusing situation, and it has widened the geopolitical ripples of the conflict in Syria. Vladimir Putin views the world in zero-sum terms. That means that what's good for Russia is bad for the West. What's bad for the West is ultimately good for Russia. This is a change. This is new. This is different than the rules that were established after 1989. The European community is divided. Some say we need to build up bigger walls and stronger defenses to defend against these kinds of threats. Others are saying, well, you know, maybe the problem is we just haven't been talking to Russia enough.
Not only Russia being involved in Syrian conflict is the problem, but for me, the shocking thing is that intelligence services in Europe cannot fight, or can fight, but cannot win the war with Islamic State right now. We could see the blasts in Brussels. We could see explosions in Paris, in France. Where's the problem? What shall be done to start to win this game, this bad game?
We face a multi-headed hydra in ISIS. We face a beast with many heads. And one of the things that we're seeing is that the more we degrade ISIS's combat abilities in the Middle East, the higher the frequency of terrorist attacks in Europe. One of the powerful lessons that the United States learned in the wake of the 9/11 attacks was that it is incredibly hard to get intelligence agencies to talk to each other. One of the early lessons, and I must stress, these are all early lessons, but one of the early lessons we've learned is that we have to increase the coordination and communication between state-level law enforcement and intelligence agencies and law enforcement and intelligence agencies across borders. When a terrorist suspect crosses a border from, say, Belgium to France,
yes,
Belgium and France need to be able to communicate information between intelligence and law enforcement levels about that action. Terrorists can move borders. Terrorists can move across borders more easily than we can share information about them. That has to change. Ultimately, though, it's important to remember, no government or army or intelligence agency will ever be strong enough to protect all citizens against terrorism at all times. That is the nature of terror. But there is a powerful weapon against terror, in my opinion, and that's the solidarity and strength and courage that comes from knowing that you have allies who have your back.